So are you ready to roll, Joe?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. All right, Joe. So, well, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us. I know it's Saturday night. I'm sure you've got far better things to do than listen to us, a couple of idiots, although there are some actual cool people coming on in a while. But thank you very much for joining us. And it's fun to do a live again. So we've decided, me and Joe, that we're going to do a bit of a pre-show because we called it the John Basilone story. But now we've got James Badge Dale coming on, and it's just so I'd like to tell his story in the next half hour if we could, Joe. Sound good?
So
do it a bit of justice.
Yeah, let's talk about some Bazzy, and we can slip in some Leckie and
yeah, let's do it. Well, in which case, if you're gonna slip in some Leckie, let's get cracking. Rough on the time. I did want to ask about the origin story of those three characters. Bazzy, Manny, who I believe I just read your post, is based on a guy called Manny Greer. Am I correct in saying that?
Richard Greer, yeah, he's one of several guys. They kind of made a composite out of him. Unlike with Band, who all the characters in it are based on actual people. There are a couple of plot devices within the Pacific that are based on multiple people.
Right.
In the sledge portion of it, there's Ham and Peck, who are two fictitious Marines. In this case, it's the Manny Rodriguez character. Richard Greer was a good buddy of Basilone's. They had spent a lot of time together. And Greer did a lot of the things that you see John Bernthal doing during the evening of the 24th and 25th into the 25th. So hauling ammo, going back and forth. He had been with one of the line companies and was brought back to battalion headquarters as sort of a runner. But a lot of the things that were attributed to Manny, the Manny character, Richard Greer actually did.
Right. So I guess my question is that, were they hometown boys? Were they friends from home? Like they are in the show, like Manny, JP, and Bazzy are kind of like, they go around them.
Actually, they came from different backgrounds, and I don't know if that was a plot device or not. I remember reading somewhere that Basilone had brought back friends, and I believe it was JP was one of them to his house for Christmas leave before they went back. So just to provide a little background for everybody. So John was assigned to the machine gun company, weapons company of 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. He was a section leader in the Marine Corps. The sections were built around 4 guns, 2-gun sections. John commanded 2 2-gun sections in the machine gun company. The battalion itself had 3 rifle companies, about 150 Marines or so apiece, plus a headquarters company. Which had their 81 millimeter mortar platoon and light machine guns and all your headquarters elements, the guys from intelligence, the operations guys, the administrative guys, your commanding officer, the executive officer, all those guys. So the bulk of the division goes into Guadalcanal in early August, the 7th of August of 1942, minus 7th Marines. 7th Marines comes in about 5 weeks later. So you have all that block of time where, say, like How To One with Leckie and Sid Phillips are fighting for basically 5 weeks before the 7th Marines arrive. And when the 7th Marines arrive, they're immediately brought in and start conducting operations they land on the 14th of September, and they're conducting operations along the Guadalcanal River, which is about 5 miles east of Henderson Field. I'm going to throw a few measurements in here and there, distances, just to give everybody kind of a frame of reference, because we don't have a map of the canal up. So if we use like Henderson Field as the center of our viewpoint of the island, it's in the northern part past Point Cruz, which is slightly to its west. And then there's a section of the ground called Edson's Ridge, which Colonel Edson commanded the Marine parachute battalions and some of the raiders in defending west of Henderson Field. And south of Henderson Field is an area called Sector 3, and that's going to be fairly important as we move on into why Basilone is where he is and what leads to his actions that he's awarded the Medal of Honor for. But anyway, you have the bulk of 7th Marines, 2nd Battalion, 1st Battalion, up near the Guadalcanal, way west of Henderson Field, conducting operations. And this is some pretty sharp firefights, a lot of patrol actions. They lose their battalion executive officer, and there's a shifting of officers within the battalion. And Marshal Moore takes over Charlie Company. He's a very well-respected company commander and officer, very well-respected Marine. He takes over the company. The company is a well-oiled machine too. They're very, very good. They're facing off against the bulk of the 2nd Sendai Division, the Japanese 2nd Sendai Division. Very disciplined, strong jungle fighters. They've been at it for a while. These guys are excellent. And so you have two very capable fighting forces that are kind of facing off against each other. Around late October, the bulk of 1st and 2nd Battalion of the 7th Marines is brought back towards Henderson Field. The 2nd Battalion of the 7th is arrayed along Edson's Ridge, basically guarding the western approach into Henderson Field. And 1st Battalion, 7th Marines is positioned south of Henderson Field with some overlap of 2nd Battalion. And this is Sector 3 that I mentioned before. And then off to the east, there are elements of the US Army's 164th Infantry Regiment. And they're holding down, as you look south, they're holding down the left flank of 7th Marines. So you have a fairly continuous line of troops protecting the airfield.
Yeah.
So around the 23rd of October, the 2nd Battalion of the 7th Marines under Herman Hannikin are ordered back out to the area around the Guadalcanal. And this forces Chesty Puller, who's commanding the 1st Battalion of the 7th Marines, to stretch his forces out to cover the entire line. Now that's about 2,500 meters worth of territory, which usually would be held by 2 battalions of troops. So obviously the line is very thin, but here's where the tactical brilliance of Chesty Puller comes in. During that time, prior to the 2nd of the 7th peeling off and heading towards the Guadalcanal, he requests support from the regiment's weapons company, and he's augmented by 4 37mm cannon crews. Now these will be used in the ground fire mode against other personnel. So they're firing, it's essentially a big shotgun shell. So they are placed in the line staggered. And then he orders his machine gun teams back to the airfield to scavenge machine guns out of the wrecked aircraft back at Henderson Field. So while the Marines are using M1903 Springfield rifles, bolt action rifles, they have an excessive amount of machine guns throughout the positions. So they have a large amount of automatic weapons to augment what they would normally carry as part of their normal organizational equipment.
Right.
So that sets the stage on the 23rd of October. The actions that lead to John's Medal of Honor occur on the 24th and 25th. So I just wanted to set the table of where we're at. And the 7th Marines are arrayed as you're looking north towards Henderson Field. You have B Company on the left, you have C Company in the center, and A Company, if my memory is not too shot, on the right. So C Company is in the center of the line. Chesty then orders the machine gun company to break off its platoons and assign them to each of the companies. So A Company gets 1st platoon, B Company gets 2nd platoon, and C Company gets 3rd platoon with John's sections of machine guns. So they go into the line as well. And the Marines start digging in, and they dig in these very robust and well-protected positions, especially about the guns, because the guns are really, they're the basis of the defensive firepower. And you have to protect them more than any other piece of your line, because if they go down, you've got huge gaps in your defensive fire. So the Marines dig them in, sandbag positions, coconut logs above them, and then re-sandbagged again, interspersed with the other machine guns. And now in front of Charlie Company, there's a fairly open swath of ground. Well, Marshal Moore, the company commander, is a very capable tactical commander. He orders the Marines to build a cheval de frise, which is essentially a gate of spiked poles. And they lay that in front, and it has an opening where they can get patrols in and out. But once you seal it, it looks like basically spikes embedded in the ground with the way it's arrayed. So the enemy has to run into that to open that. So it's essentially like large punji stakes in a row, like a fence that you would normally see around somebody's yard, only angled forward.
Wait, so Is this in the military manual, or did he just like dig this out of his, what would be a brilliant idea here?
It was not something that was used often at this time. I wouldn't say it was in any Marine and doctrinal manuals, but he knew about it and how to emplace it, which again just indicates his tactical brilliance.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, he waits after they emplace it, because he figures the Japanese are conducting reconnaissance of his lines, which they are, because the Japanese are excellent at infiltrating up and then taking a good lay of the land so they can plot where all the guns are. But he waits until it starts to get a little dark, and it's also intermittently raining on the 23rd into the 24th, and he has them string a double apron of barbed wire behind the Cheval de Frise. So not only did the Japanese attackers have to negotiate this spiked fence, but once they clear it, they've got a double strand of barbed wire they have to get through as well to breach the lines. Absolutely brilliant tactics right there. And that sets the stage for them as they approach the evening of the 23rd and into the early morning of the 24th.
Right. So all right. So we'll come back to that if you don't mind.
Yep.
One thing that always sort of fascinates me, because I've watched and rewatched these episodes now, and they just keep getting better, is the fact that they're stranded.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I sort of going back to this when I talked to the boys a bit later, that they get dumped on this rock in the middle of bloody nowhere that no one's ever heard of, and then the Japanese sink their supplies. How bad was the supply drain, and when were they? When was that fixed? When did the Navy show back up again with ass wipe and all the other stuff that they say they don't have anymore?
Yeah, the Battle of Savo Island was or Iron Bottom Sound, whichever one you want to call it, was a terrible loss. I mean, it really. It was an understrength U.S. task force supported by, if I remember correctly, some Australian ships as well. And the Japanese really took it to them. And they had to go, what was left of the task force had to head out to sea. And I want to say it was at least a couple of weeks, if not longer, before they were able to basically get level the playing field enough in terms of firepower where they could get resupply in there. There was a lot of foraging done, a lot of use of captured Japanese supplies, where they kind of show it. There's a great scene, and I'm sure you're going to talk to the boys about it, when they're in the chow line and they're shoveling out that was captured Japanese rice.
Right, there's like bugs and maggots and all sorts of crap in it. Yeah,
just think of it as meat.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff right there. And that happened quite a bit. And I love the passing around the sake bottle in the gun position. There was a lot of that that went on. They lived on Japanese rice for quite a while. So yeah, that is not untrue and beautifully portrayed. But it did it from, again, I'd have to go pull some books out, and because there's only so much data I can cram in this very small brain about how long it took. But I want to say it was at least a couple of weeks, if not.
Right. That's what I was looking for, was like a ballpark figure, because that must have been freaking terrifying, just stuck in the middle of nowhere, because the Japanese could resupply.
They could. They did. There were Japanese, not only that, there were troop landings and resupply missions coming in. And I remember actually talking to Richard Greer several times. It was great being a Marine. I could call him up and say, hey, and we'd have this little Marine thing going on, and we would talk about the actions. And he remembered specifically, there was one action where the Japanese tried to land 14 troop carriers worth of troops, and they got caught in the open and decimated. But that was after the balance had started to swing in the Allied favor.
Right.
He told me, he said, I could feel like between the actions on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of October, and then those subsequent actions, he's like, I could feel that we were winning at that point. We could feel the campaign changing hands in terms of who had the initiative.
Right. And is that why, I'm jumping around on my questions here, Joe, but is that why the John Basilone story is so legendary? Because up to that point, it had been a whole series of defeats. Then the tide begins to turn, and the tide begins to turn around the fulcrum of this incredible action by one man. So
it does, but I want to say, as amazing story and as outstanding a performance of duty of John's during that evening, he was not alone. And I will have to go to the paperwork here to actually, the amount of personal awards, and the Marine Corps is always, lagged in issuance of personal awards, and this stems from World War I on and continues this day. The amount of personal awards awarded just to 1-7 and specifically Charlie Company during this campaign was amazing. John's action was not the only one that was cited and recognized. There were so many others, several Navy Crosses, which is second below the Medal of Honor, as well as Silver Stars and Bronze Stars that were awarded for that particular action. So while the focus of the episode is John's actions and John's heroism, I'm not saying this in any way to downgrade his performance. Absolute legend, and somebody obviously I never met, but I look up to him as a Marine. He's just part of the lore of the Corps. But there were so many other Marines, and I could talk about one in particular, a guy by the name of Cecil Evans. During this sequence where the gun sections under JP get knocked out or they jam, and they show John running over, he runs into two Marines. One of them is a runner, an unidentified runner, who tells him about JP's sections going down. And really they don't show, but there are two Marines killed and 3 wounded over there, and the guns are jammed up. But he also runs into an 18-year-old Marine named Cecil Evans. And Evans, he's literally firing at the Japanese between the position. He was actually running back to get John to go clear the guns, and he runs into him, and he's firing at Japanese attackers, screaming "come on" at them, and firing his bolt action Springfield. And he's later on, between that and several other actions he's involved in, he's awarded the Navy Cross. An 18-year-old Marine fighting almost alone between the two positions, and he's awarded the Navy Cross for that and several other actions, a kind of composite. But there are other Marines who perform very heroically within that fight, within that company, but John's is the pivotal. And we can just talk about staggering numbers as we go. You know, he does go over there, and he does carry one of his own water-cooled over there to augment the guns, and he fires it first and then hands the gun over, and then in the dark, fishing around, he manages to clear both of the other guns and get them back in action. And then he takes the other gun back to his position. And during the evening, they show like the Japanese casualties all piled up in front of it actually occurred, and he did leave the lines to clear the field of fire.
Right.
And on top of it, the next day, all 4 of the machine guns in his section, all the barrels are burnt out. And in 2 of them, the glands and grooves, which are the swirls in the barrels that control the muzzle velocity, the velocity of the rounds going out, are worn down. They fired 26,000 rounds through those 4 guns over the course of the day and a half.
Holy shit.
Yeah, 26,000 rounds.
That's not smokeless rounds either, is it?
No. And not to mention, you have rain coming down, and their water, even though they're water cooled, they're generating a tremendous amount of heat. There's steam coming off the guns as well as the rain's hitting it. And they, by Marine Corps numbers, and this, you know, you can take it for what it's worth, there were apparently over 400 Japanese killed in action in front of Charlie Company's positions alone.
Wow.
Of which his 4 guns had commanding fields of fire.
Jesus.
So they wiped out over almost a battalion alone.
Right.
Just in front of his guns.
Wow.
They wipe out 2 regiments of the Sendai Division. The Japanese estimated their losses at 350 killed in action, 500 wounded in action, and over 200 missing in action in that one night alone, the 24th to the 25th. I mean, they annihilated a better part of one of the Japanese elite infantry divisions.
And is that due to, were they attacking in a banzai charge? Is that what was going on there? Or...
No, there were multiple charges across the line, but yes, they did scream, and they did when they did attack. I mean, that's part of unnerving the defensive line, but especially in front of John's portion of the line with the cheval de frise and the double apron barbed wire, they're hung up in this defensive line, and they're massacred. They're literally massacred in front of them. And there are 3 main attacks that occur. One at 00:15 on the 24th, another wave and that's the attack where John goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Then another wave starts at 0-3, and they beat that one back as well. And then between that attack, Puller asks for reinforcement from the 164th Infantry Regiment, and they feed him a company from the 3rd Battalion. And during a lull, after the attack that comes at 0-3, he feeds in this company piecemeal by platoon to fill gaps in the Marine lines. And by this time, there's over 250 Japanese troops that have infiltrated into the lines of 1-7, and to a man, they're killed. So while you're trying to fight in front of you, you have to imagine there's Japanese attacking through breaks in the line and in your rear. So as your runners are trying to bring up machine gun ammo, just like they were displayed in the miniseries, although John was the focus of the action, there's Japanese troops in your rear area creating all kinds of havoc, and all these Japanese are killed to a man as well. So not only are you fighting in front of you, you have to worry about what's going on behind you. But he infiltrates this army company into his lines, Puller does, and they end up reinforcing. And just as they're all in position and they get their fields of fire laid out, the Japanese throw another wave at 0-4, and they're stopped cold. And I forgot to mention, there's also defensive fires from artillery and mortars going on. The 11th Marines are firing in support, which is the artillery, 2nd Battalion, 11th Marines, which is their artillery battalion. It's assigned to support them. And not only that, their 81 millimeter platoon that's assigned to the battalion as well. It gets to the point where the barrels are so hot from firing, the powder bags are cooking off as the rounds are going. And this leads to a couple of short rounds that land in the Marine lines, causing some friendly casualties.
Right.
But it doesn't stop them. The rain it's a combination of things, the heated barrels plus the rain hitting the powder bags, which is causing the short fire. They're burning too quick and short firing. So all this is going on. It's an amazing feat of arms, really, to think about how Chesty Puller was able to levy all these assets in support, but then just the fighting, the individual Marine versus the individual Japanese soldier. And I don't want to downplay the heroism of the Japanese as well. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to run towards a defensive line, a perimeter line, and break through wire and defensive measures, and then charge guns. I mean, these men were just outstanding fighters, but they were tactically used. They were terribly used, and their coordination was terrible as well. There were several battalions that were supposed to follow in a staggered manner. So once the initial battalions breached the line, these other battalions are supposed to flow through those breaches and break through and start destroying everything behind them. Well, they followed too closely, and essentially they come in right behind the other battalions who are getting mowed down, and they get mowed down. Right. So there were a lot of communication issues on the part of the Japanese as well, even though they did some fine reconnaissance of the Marine lines. Once it gets dark and it starts raining, oh, and by the way, the enemy gets a vote.
Right.
The fight begins to change, and really the Marines have the tactical advantage in terms of the ground. They have the defensive measures in place, and then they have the paucity of the tremendous amount of automatic weapons assigned to them in that sector. And that's what changes the tide of the battle. And John his positions, his two sections are, like you said, they're the fulcrum of the defensive line for Charlie Company, which is at the center of the battalion line. And really, that's where they break the back of the Japanese attack.
Right. And in the show, you see him load his 30 cal onto his arm, and it just melts to his arm. And in the heat and the adrenaline of battle, he obviously just doesn't feel it. Yep. That's all true, is it? It
is true, yeah. Because he did lose his asbestos glove. You see, there's a great scene where they show in the Leckie episode, the first episode, where they're marching uphill, and he's got his asbestos mitten hanging off of his harness.
I wondered what that was. I thought it was like some kind of like dueling glove or something.
Yeah, no, these are asbestos mittens, and what they're designed for to be able to change hot barrels,
right,
as they've been firing, instead of obviously like what happens to John, where he burns up his forearm and his hand because he didn't have his mitten on. Well, that's what that's for, to change hot barrels in the middle of because really what the guns do is they operate in tandem. You don't continuously fire them, because one, you'll burn the barrels out, but two, when you're changing ammunition belts out of them, you keep one gun up while the other one changes. So there's a rhythm built, especially when you have gunners that work well together. I remember reading David Hackworth's book about Face, and he talked about two of his machine gun crews that he had in Korea, and he said they had this routine where they would basically play shave and a haircut 2 bits on their guns.
Right.
It did
Roger
2
Rabbit
things.
style.
Yeah, exactly. He said, but it had the effect of, one, you always had a gun up because they could alternate their fire, but you also had a rhythm, so you knew like your fellow machine gunners were up,
right,
and working. So they was kind of a unspoken communication, but also allowed them to change out belts while keeping continuous fire going, a sustained fire.
right.
So there's a rhythm to it. So I have no doubt that they probably fire. I'm not saying they played shave and a haircut 2 bits, but I have no doubt that there was that synergy between the gun crews when you work together for quite a while.
Yeah, I imagine that's hard to maintain with Japanese screaming and running at you, though. I imagine
that.
Just get very trigger happy.
Worried about getting your head chopped off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's our 5-minute warning, Joe. So I just wanted to give me 1 second. I got one more question for you.
Yep, fire away.
So if we go past the fact that John has been awarded the Medal of Honor, and then he is sort of drafted into the USO ship, isn't he? Taken back to America, and then can we skip forward to the bit where he re-enlists and basically ultimately the legend of John Basilone is his undoing?
Yeah, he was working at the U.S. Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. at the time, essentially, in his own words, pushing paper and
right.
widening his own ass in a chair. Was very disillusioned with it. He was a field Marine. He was a Marines Marine. He wasn't they actually offered him a commission, which he turned down, to become an officer. And he said, I'm not an officer. I'm not a salesman. I want to go back with the troops. And eventually he's assigned to a B company of the 27th Marines. And this is where there's those great sequences that were supposed to be at Camp Pendleton, where he meets Chuck Tatum and Steve Evison. That is all true, what happens. And he goes back there, but he does struggle. He does struggle getting back in shape physically, because there's a big difference between being what we call FMF, or Fleet Marine Force, and being a rear area guy. And it takes him a little while to get himself back in, but he throws himself in completely to this duty. And later on, although they don't show it, he later on transfers to 1st Battalion, 27th Marines. So he really doesn't go into EWA with Tatum and Evison and the other guys from B Company. That's the only difference they don't show. And I think that's probably just for the ease of storytelling. They don't want to clutter up the story at that point. But yeah, that sets the stage really well. It was a whirlwind romance with Lena Riggi. She was, the two of them were perfectly made for each other. When you read their stories and see how they reacted, and she was all Marine too. She was,
she's great. She's great in the show as well, man. She's fantastic.
She is. I mean, and she has that attitude too. And I read a lot of interviews with her. They did a lot of articles about her, especially when they christened the ship after him. She did a lot of interviews, and she's dynamite too. She's a firecracker. I would have loved to have met her. She was that one.
Yeah,
but
fantastic.
And Chuck, and I do encourage everybody to go and look for Chuck Tatum's article that he wrote for Leatherneck about the death of John Basilone. Chuck was one of the few Marines there that survived, that actually witnessed John's death.
Okay.
Brilliant writer in his own right. Can't recommend Red Blood, Black Sand enough. Just a phenomenal read. There's so much material out there about Bazzy and what he meant to the Corps, and what he still means to the Corps, obviously, with parades in Raritan every year. I know we only got 1 more minute left. I'm not going to preach about John. There's so much stuff out there. Everybody, if you shoot me a note in the chat group later on, if we turn it back on, I've got some articles and stuff I'll be glad to share that everybody can feel free to take a look at. And just an awesome man, and proud to say another fellow Italian American Marine.
I thought you were German.
Great. That last name, right? Gives it away every time.
Lucia. Mooch, it's been a fucking pleasure as always. I guess we should let the actors on.
Yeah, can I stick around?
House, and we'll get on it. A word from the sponsor.
Ah, nice. Do I get to stick around? You're picking me out.
Listen, Mooch, we're gonna turn off your camera and your microphone, but we're gonna keep you handy just in case it does that thing where we have a history question that no one knows the answer to.
I'm there for you guys. You know that.
All right, buddy.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, buddy. All right, Leighton, who you got for me?
We got Josh and Scott in here at the moment, so I'll just bring those on now.
Yes, please.
So
I'm looking very massive, is all I'll say, and slightly blurred.
Huge. You're a hugely strong man, Matt.
Bitton, how are you, gorgeous?
Yes,
how do you look 10 years younger, 10 years later? That's a 20-year difference.
Well, you know, JP was stressed all the time. And
right. Yeah. It was a bit of a dodgy situation, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was I appreciate you saying that. It's just lighting. It's all lighting.
Yeah, me too, mate. Me too. I spend ages lighting these things before I come on. Otherwise, I look like Dorian Gray's picture.
So John and James are jumping on.
John and James are jumping on. Do we need them? Do we need those guys?
I believe
Sergeant
so.
Morgan.
I mean, Badgers.
James Dale.
What is going on?
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Oh my God.
And Johnny Silk. This is what's up. Hey, Scotty.
Oh man, look at
How you
this.
doing, buddy?
Oh my
What's going on?
God.
You beautiful man, you. How good to see you.
Oh, let's go. Oh, what's up, Johnny?
How long do you want to do this for, boys? Do you want to go for a little while, or?
Badge, did you kill that thing above your head?
Yeah. That's mine.
Barehanded.
That's sorry, dude, I'm being attacked by a dog.
He ate it for breakfast.
That's exactly right.
Hey, Badge, am I all right to call you Badge? I feel like one of those douches that calls Anthony Hopkins Tony, you know?
No, you can call me Badge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone calls me Badge. That's fine.
Tony Hopkins, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Great. I just wanted to start off. Thank you so much for joining me, boys. It's fucking great.
Fabulous, man.
Huge fans. I am of all of you. I just want to start off with Joshua Bitton. Oh, did I get that right, Gibson? Because you're continually alphaing me about the way I pronounce things.
You made it fancier than we say here.
Bitton. Do you want me to call you Joshua Bitton as well? I can do that. The dog disagrees. I just want to talk about you alphaing John Bernthal, to be honest with you.
What is that? What is that? Oh, Keith Nobbs! Yes!
Keith!
There he is! Runner himself.
Hang on. So, John, you're in Australia, or you've been in Australia for a long time, haven't you?
I was. I've been back. I'm in New Jersey right now. I've been back for just a little over a week.
Right. So in Australia, there's a thing called alphaing. It's called alphaing, mate. And it's when you do small, little, subtle microaggressions to put someone down. It's like when you call someone champ, when you give them like their latte. There you go, champ. They're not a champ of anything. They're not won anything. You're alphaing them. Oh. Well, Josh alphaed the Punisher. He said he was going to come on, but can I be a little bit late? And Josh went, no, you can't. So he's not here. He just alphaed him completely. No, you can't.
I mean, Johnny is on a plane, like literally on a plane right now, flying from LA to DC to finish up some work. So he asked if we could move the entire thing a couple hours because he wanted to be with all the boys. And I thought that might be a logistical nightmare.
And you just said no.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Alfred in the way.
Alphabet.
Alphabet it out.
Yeah.
All right, boys, I've only got you for a small amount of time, so I'm going to start. Keith, I did not know you were coming on. The guys just keep dropping these things on me, but there are questions that are less specific, things about boot camp and stuff that everyone can jump in on. Okay, mate. So I apologize if I don't have anything lined up. Thanks again, Leighton and Scotty. You're just trying to make me look a tool. I want to jump straight in with you, Josh, as you're the alpha. And it's understanding JP Morgan, I believe, is understanding the trifectite of Basilone, JP Morgan, and Manny, because, well, without saying 2009, he survives. So how much access did you have to his family and his story to be able to tell the other guy's story as well?
Zero.
Why was that?
No. Well, you know, I mean, these guys know this story. So the rumor about JP Morgan was that he was an amazing poker player and a hell of a fist fighter. And he got into more fights with other Marines than like anybody. And it was Basilone who was supposedly the only guy who could kind of, so while he was winning all this money playing poker against other Marines and sending it home to his wife, the story was that he sent it all home to his wife, Katie. And when he finally, because he actually went to Gloucester, where we see Leckie and Runner and those guys. That was his last station. And when he went home, apparently his wife had left him and taken all the money and left him for another man. And as we were told, as I was told, which was kind of like the basis of the character for me, was he got on his motorcycle, grabbed his Marine Corps issued 45, and hopped on his motorcycle to hunt them down and kill them. And while trying to chase them down, was apparently hit by a truck and killed. And that was originally going to be in the crawl of the show. There was one veteran Marine. Is that Freddie Joe Farnsworth in a window down there?
That was supposed to be a surprise.
Well, it just surprised the shit out of me.
I was going to do this whole thing where I was going to do, like, you guys are boxers. I know John's a boxer. I know Badge is a boxer. I was going to do the whole thing. Do you reckon you could deck Freddie Joe? And then I was going to bring him on. Freddie, stand down for now, because if we get him on, it's going to turn into chaos. I got some questions first, Freddie, then I'll bring you on. Carry on, John.
But anyways, there was some one of the like few survivors still alive, at that time, who said he thought he had heard that JP retired in Boca Raton. So they couldn't find him and they never got any information. So they kind of pulled it from the crawl. But I grew up in Queens. Everybody was angry. So it seemed like an easy in for me to the character, to be honest.
Yeah, I've walked through Queens before. I got a lot of abuse for being English. So, John, if you don't mind me asking you, I've got a similar question for you, but basically my question is, it's about research. It's how you unpick the fabric of a legend to play him as a real man. What was your process there? It's an easy one to start with, John.
It's interesting. I mean, from when I first got this script, when I very first got it, it's the first time ever I can say in my career that I really felt like I was meant to play him. I just really felt, I don't know why, I just felt this connection. And originally it didn't go my way. It's a long story. And then eventually it did go my way. But that said, I think it was, there's all these stories about Basilone, and some of them are so, crazy. Some of them are out there, like he's this, there's a statue of him in Raritan, New Jersey, where he looks like Rambo, holding a big 30 cal machine gun and just looks, like bigger than life. So there's, there were all these, stories about him. And I just like, I knew he was a guy from New Jersey. I'm a guy from New Jersey. He loved his family. He was a real family man, just loved what he did. And, I just felt like, after talking to some people like Chuck Tatum, of course, who knew him very, very well, I'm just going to be a guy, and just try to, I could never, actually replicate him. but I just believed he was just a guy who loved what he did, and just try to play him from there, and just try to show, who he was as a human being,
Yeah, it's funny, John. My first question to everybody was going to be, sometimes you read a script and you think, I got to work at this. And other times you read a script and think, I know this guy. And I was going to do a show of hands. Did everybody sort of feel that way? It was like, I have no idea how I'm going to work my way into this at all. But you answered yours straight away. Like, I know this guy, I'm this guy.
Well, I just want to interject real quick.
I'm not saying I knew him. But
yeah.
Jacob Pitts is here from Prague, and I don't know if you guys see him, but we got Hoosier in the house too. And,
Jesus.
Who let him in?
Him and Keith are my surprise to you boys. That's all. I told you I'd have some surprises.
You have over-delivered. So while I got you as well, then Badge, I kind of got the same question a little bit for you, but I sort of have this image of you on a farm somewhere chopping wood with a chainsaw, and Tony Toad driving out there just to ask you to be in the show, and you go, no, I have everything I want on this farm. And then was it a bit like that? Are you that type of loner, or did you bite his arm off to take the role?
Oh man, I think we all felt like Tony Toe was going to bite one of our arms off.
Yeah, he has that vibe. Yeah. He's about the right height as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he how do I get into this? It was a unique experience. I think, we all took different roads to get there. I think in the case of myself, for Robert Leckie, it was a couple of stop starts. Tony Toe said no originally. And I think they ended up having trouble casting Bob, and I was screen testing for Generation Kill, and against Alex Skarsgård, and I couldn't get it right. Like I was just what is it? David Simon? Is that the dude, or is it David? No, David Simon, right? He's giving me direction, and I'm sitting there and I'm going like, I can hear you, but I can't do what you're asking me to do. I don't know why. Like, I'm telling you, I'm trying. I'm not stupid, but this instrument is not processing it. And so I bombed the screen test on purpose. I went in the screen test and I said, I fuck it. I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to this. And I did that. And David Simon never talked to me again, literally just got up, walked out of the room, never heard from him again. And I got a phone call 3 days later saying, do you want to come to Australia? And HBO had sent those tapes to Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And suddenly I found myself in a circumstance where now I'm in Australia, face to face with Tony Toe, the man who said no originally. And we are in table reads, and we're kind of working through these roles. And I think it was in those moments where we really started to find each other and find these roles. And like John Seda was talking about, your voice, because it feels like a tremendous responsibility when you're telling this story and these men's story and these families' stories. And there was some moments that I would say in the beginning with the rehearsal process, and then the boot camp process, where we found each other, and we kept that going throughout the entire filming. It was every day was kind of a discovery.
Right. And we'll come to boot camp. We'll do a whole, because then we can bring everybody on, because I do love boot camp stories. I just want to follow on just a little bit more about Leckie while I got your Badge. Was the way into Leckie through his book, or through his writing? Because I read it, and there's a vibe of Hemingway, there's a vibe of Heller about it. I can imagine it being a pain in the ass at school, Leckie, like being very, very intelligent, but also being very, very chipper, always being able to get away with stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grasp, but also a troublemaker, into fighting, but also like a sardonic hatred of fighting. Like, am I getting anywhere close? Is that the way?
You have all of the above. I think Bob Leckie was a lot of opposites going at each other at the same time. I met with his family. I just because of this, I just texted with Vera and her daughter Joan today, and Vera Leckie's doing great. She's 98 years old. I mean, there's some photos of her and her great grandson. I mean, it's amazing. But Vera, I sat down with Vera and the family beforehand, and Joan and David, and they just started hashing out these stories, and I realized they're kind of grieving in front of me. And my honest feeling is that Bob Leckie never wanted me to play that role. That Bob Leckie wanted to play that role himself. And I think that's the type of human he is, you know?
Right.
These extremes and then a lot of control. He wanted to be in control, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, I've got everybody. I can't believe I've got Jacob Bitton Keith here as well. Yeah. Fucking hell. I hate you, Josh.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
My mom is here and she loves these boys. So I just have to give a shout out to her on her iPhone.
Is she in the room? You should bring her on.
No, she's in a little window in New York. I see her. I saw
Hello,
her.
how you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, Mom.
So I have a feeling that Badger's casting might have been a bit different to the other guys. Did they put you guys together then? Because I don't want to talk about band too much because this is your show, but they tended to put us together in the pods that we were in to hit off the guys that we were going to play with. Did they do the same with you guys?
No, I mean, I had a little of that with the first person they had chosen as Basilone, but that didn't seem to be the way this kind of went. And I don't know what you guys think, but part of it to me felt like the difference between, in a lot of ways, band and the Pacific, which was that, you know, the band was pre 9/11. It was about like this sort of like nostalgia for this greatest generation, and we were post 9/11 in a war that many people say was far more brutal than the European war. And I think in a lot of ways, the individuality of us trying to come together, losing each other, you know, in different episodes was, I think, part of that story. You know, I don't know if that is why they cast it differently in that regard, but, you know, we were constantly sort of, you know, like I think what Batch said is right, finding each other. I think we found each other in those rehearsals. We definitely found each other in boot camp where we became family.
Well, then let's talk boot camp. Let's talk some boot camp stories, and you can all jump in here. We have been told repeatedly that our boot camp was not yet. Our boot camp wasn't as brutal as yours. Talk us through your boot camp. I love person to ask. Family, my dad used to take me on exercise when I was like 8 years old. Here, fire a machine gun, son, and sleep in a hole. So I loved it. But tell us your boot camp stories, boy. John's chaining at the bit, mate.
Yeah, if I could just start off real quick, because I just came back from Australia and happened to be filming in the same exact areas where we were. You know, when we filmed the Pacific, I was in the Yangs and up in the Massachusetts Ranges and Heskett, and it was absolutely surreal, man. It was first time going back to the Yangs. I'm standing there, I'm looking around, and I can see all of us. I can see, it's almost like a soldier having like flashbacks, man. I was like, this is where we were trekking through the jungle, and this is where we like had our camp and all that. And so it was so penetrating to actually be there again. And, you know, I mean, like you were saying, I absolutely loved boot camp. It was hard as hell. You know, we all suffered and grew together in ways that I'm sure, I know for me, I didn't know I had in me. I didn't know, you know, what kind of, you know, don't quit I had in me until we did this boot camp. And you know, I think it was only a couple weeks, was it? Or a few weeks, maybe?
9.5 days.
Yeah. And
That's it.
I could have had us for 3 months. He would have had us for 3 months if he had his way. See, I think he tried to put into, you know, 9-10 days what you know guys would have gone through had they had 3 months. So it was pretty hard. But I think the camaraderie and just us coming together. I mean, it was such a special time, and I still think about it. There's times I reminisce, and and remember some of the great times we had together. So I mean, it was beautiful.
I just want to say, one thing. My favorite. This to me encapsulates what boot camp was like. We got to boot, right, and to be honest, most of us didn't even know each other's names. We only called each other by character names. That's what we were allowed to do, by our last names. And on the first day, Badge, because we were all machine gunners. Everybody here was a machine gunner, so we were in the same platoon. Badge goes to me, "Hey Morgan, you want a cigarette?" And I go, "I don't fucking smoke, bro." And he just laughs. He goes, "Yeah, okay." And I looked at him like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, why is he laughing at me? 4 days later, and the machine gunners, we were like the redheaded stepchildren of boot camp. We apparently could do nothing right. Freddie Joe was up our ass. Capt was up our ass. They constantly told us what disappointments we were. Yeah. And we went into the jungle and we got attacked because there was a Japanese boot camp going. And we got attacked by Japanese snipers. And the entire 65 men, the entire company had to go into like sniper hunt. And the machine gunners, we were moving through the jungle and setting up and breaking down and firing. And then we killed the sniper. And we all felt really, really good. And we came out of the jungle back to our camp. And it was the first time of all of boot camp that we felt good. And our sergeant, Garcia, came out of the jungle and he was like, "You fucking pieces of shit. You think you did a good job out there?" And he goes, it gets one by one in everybody's face. He's like, "You fucking owe me. And you fucking owe me." And I snapped. I was like, "This motherfucker." And I went to like go. And Keith, Nobbs, and Badge appeared on each one of my shoulders and threw an arm around me and went, "No, no, no, Morgan, no, no, no." And I turned to Badge,
walk away.
Went, "Give me a fucking cigarette." And he goes, "Ha, ha, ha, I told you."
I didn't,
everything. Yeah,
I didn't smoke before boot camp. I had quit for 4 years. First day of boot camp, I was like, "Give me a fucking cigarette." And then it was like 9 years until I quit again. It started me smoking again for 9 years. Well, then we're smoking while we're shooting. And it's, you know, it's World War II. So you're smoking these unfiltered cigarettes, smoking like, God, not like 15, 18, 20 cigarettes. And then like smoking during the take, putting it out when they yell cut, and then lighting up a regular cigarette. We hated ourselves.
I can't help noticing you're blinking a lot down there, Jacob. Did boot camp terrify you or something? There's always one guy that it traumatized. We had one guy, he's like written like 3 memoirs of his boot camp on back, and he's still not out of his system.
No, well, I've been toggling with the controls here on Zoom for a bit, and I don't know how to, I've got like 20 people in my frame right now, and I don't know how to change it. And so this is scaring me.
Right.
It's not boot camp, it's the Zoom.
It's the tech. The tech terrifies me as well. All I can say is you want it on speaker view, and other than that, just try to ignore everybody.
Okay,
you might have it on
look
gallery view. Shall I turn off cams? Yeah, Leighton,
I got it.
Out, mate. You got it. Did you put it on speaker view?
So.
Right. That's beautiful. Now
I'm down to like 7 people now. So
that's us. That's if you can recognize everyone.
Why don't we move on from the technical part?
Let's do that. So talk to me about boot camp then, Jacob.
Well, speaking of our Sergeant Garcia, who they stopped, or who Keith and Badge stopped Josh from assaulting. Right. I shot him.
Oh.
We were on some night watch, and I don't know, it was day like 4 or 5, and he gave us our orders, and it was like, anyone comes through that fucking line, you fucking shoot him. I don't care who the fuck it is. And it was him, and we were at this point where I didn't know what to think, because boot camp actually started off really fucked up. Should I tell the Val story?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Tell whatever you like.
We got up there, and originally, well, maybe John would want to tell the story. I don't know.
No, you tell it.
Is it incriminating?
Bed, Jacob.
No, you guys know more about it than I did.
Okay, well, there was I won't get into it. There was an actor, originally cast as Basilone, for John. And it was a situation where I think they wanted to hedge their bets and they weren't really sure who they wanted in the role until they got us all there. This is kind of I think, as I understand it now, it's kind of an old trick in Hollywood. And so we had another actor playing Basilone. And at the end of our first day, in my memory, it's different than other people's, but
first day one for sure.
Yeah. They called, and they had been fucking with us all day, and I started smoking as soon as I could on boot camp.
Yeah.
They had us digging holes. We were exhausted. We were hungry. We were just, I was crying inside. And they called us for our platoon meeting. I forget what it's called. School circle, whatnot. And the actor playing Basilone, they pull him up. And he's like, and Dale Dye is there, I think, in my memory. And they go, Basilone's got something to say to you, gents. And he stands up and he goes, well, guys, and he's really kind of oddly emotional. And he's like, I got to go. I got another mission assigned to me. And I'll see you guys on the other side, or something to that effect. And then he left. And then John gets up, or I don't even get up. They just pointed at you. Yeah, and you say, and they said, that's Rodriguez. Rodriguez is now Basilone. You are not to refer to the other Basilone. He's MIA, if anything. And at that point, I just thought, what is he going to jump out from the jungle later at us? Like, are they going to bring him back? And he's going to, like, I just thought it was a total head game. But they had actually decided after a table read that John was the better fit. And they fired that actor, and that was his last day.
Holy shit, that is brutal.
I believe John said no. When they turned to John, they said, we want you to play this role.
Yeah.
Wow.
But was that later? Because the whole thing seemed like a crazy mind fuck at the time. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't.
Well, John, you were supposed to only be there for like a few months. You had your family back in the States, right? And the idea was, I'm going to be gone for this amount of time. And now this would have been all 9-10 months or whatever.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact timing of like when we had that meeting and he got up or when I was approached by one of the producers on the first day of boot camp. I don't know, but I pretty shortly before Val got up there and they said he was, basically leaving, is when I was approached by one of the producers. And they're basically saying, look, we've decided we want to go with you as Basilone. And, I was in shock, but I was also dealing with emotions of, like, as I said, going way back, I always felt like I was meant to play him. So it was a weird, for a short amount of time there, I didn't think this was really happening. I thought this was like, I wasn't alive. I thought this was a dream. I didn't think it was real. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I just remember I said, but Val's right there. He's the guy that's playing. He's right there. I just didn't understand. And they said, well, we're hoping that you'll say yes. And if not, they were looking to change him anyway. And at that point I said, look, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I could do that I don't. So I was basically saying, I don't think I can do it because I couldn't do that to someone. I wanted him to just leave it the way it was. I'll stay who I'm playing, but he was insistent. He said, look, we're going to change him. We're going to change him anyway. We really hope that you would do it. And that's, like I said, I always felt like I was meant to play him. I just, okay. And then boom, then we go and they pull him up and he says, they said they're changing him. And I'm sitting there. I didn't know what that was. I came back, I saw Josh, and Josh is like, what just happened? And I don't remember how my face looked. I just turned him and I said, they want me to be Basilone. you remember that, Josh? I got
Oh no, I remember exactly where we were. I remember exactly where we were. We were right outside of our hooches, and we were squatted down like on a knee. And you had been on my left as Rodriguez, and Basilone was always on my right. In the movie, my right. I said, "Hey, what happened?" You said, "I'm Basilone." The only thing I remember is I looked at you and I said, "All right, man, I got your back." And we nodded, and that was it. And we just kind of went. It was one of those, like, I don't know, in my mind, that exchange between you and I, John, is one I'll never forget, because something happened where we became incredibly bonded. It was like there was all this weird noise and fear, and also I think for all of us, we thought it was really wrong. Like, it was like, how do you do that to an actor? But it's, it's the business. And it was like, and I don't know, we connected in a way that was like, it's just going to be us as friends, which I think what deepened amongst all of us in that group. I don't know, Bash, what you're going to say. I could see it,
No, I just want to kind of piggyback into that, because what you're talking about, that state of chaos that we started with, and I think that Jacob was referring to, that the uncertainty fed into the chemistry of the group, and fed into kind of our culture, where we kind of started approaching every day like it's our last day. This is the last day we have. So what are you going to do today? And everyone would just kind of, we became very focused in the present and the now. And I think it helped all of us. And I just want to say that it was a really difficult circumstance, and I've never seen two actors handle it with more respect and integrity than I saw John Seda and the actor who was sent home. It was, I hope in the circumstance, if I'm ever in that circumstance, I can handle that the same way.
I honestly can't think of another actor that would. And most of the actors would have bitten their hand off, wouldn't they? I mean, it just speaks to you as a person, John. I'm quite blown away. Most actors I've ever worked with would have been like, "Fucking yes, get gone." But I understand.
It's kind of to that point, though. It's kind of
yeah.
why he should have played Basilone in the first place.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's sort of proof was in the pudding, wasn't it? He proved himself right there. I wonder how much of it was by design. Do you suppose it was done by design? That, I mean, it's fucking brutal, but it's that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that there were questions. I think there were questions from certain sides of the, of production and stuff that they weren't sure. I think because originally the role that John was brought in to play Rodriguez was originally like a private who was really young. And then they rewrote it to make it like 3 sort of salty sergeants. And I think when that rewrite happened might have been when the conversation started to go, do we have the right guy for what we're looking for tonally?
Yeah, I got a call when it didn't go my way. Admittedly, I was shocked. Having a meeting with Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and the other producers in a room. As an actor, you always feel like you can do more. When you're in a room and you leave a room and you hope to leave that room going, did I do enough? Did I present myself like I wanted to? And look, I remember leaving thinking, I know I didn't suck. Did I hit a home run? I don't know. Did I do enough? I don't know. But I felt that what I did was enough that, if for some reason it didn't go my way, at least I know I didn't suck, and maybe they'll think of me for something else or whatever, right? But I really thought I did well. So when it didn't go my way, I was kind of shocked for a while. I said, wow, that's just, I really felt like I was meant to do this role. I felt like I was meant. And so, but then I got a call. I don't remember which, I think it was, I'll leave him nameless, but one of the producers called and said, listen, we're writing this role, and it was the role of Manny. And they said, would you be interested? We like you. We still want you to come out here. This is only 3 episodes. So going to what Keith was saying, I'll be there only for 2, maybe 3 months at a time, and my kids were much younger then. So I'm thinking that's not bad. I can be away 2-3 months. And I said, look, I wanted to be a part of this so bad. It's like being a stormtrooper in Star Wars, where they didn't see my face. It's like, look, I was part of that, because seeing the Band of Brothers, and I was like, the Band of Brothers was just amazing, so the pedigree of Tom Hanks and Spielberg when it comes to doing things like this. So I just said, look, this is going to be special. So if I can just be a part of it, I don't care if it's one scene, I don't care if I have no dialogue, I don't care if, I want to be a part of it. So when they came, they said, would you still be interested? I said, yeah. I said, I'll do 2 episodes. I'll have a great death scene, whatever it is you want. I just want to be a part of it. But that's how they got me out to Australia. And then, we had our read through and had our first day of boot camp, and everything changed, And
Did you, have you had much contact with the Basilone family?
Yeah, there's a parade they do once a year in Raritan, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. I was able to attend, I think it was 4 or 5 straight. One was before Pacific came out. And I'm still in contact with some, unfortunately, some passed away. But there's a place called Uncle Vinny's that's right on a strip where they have the parade in Raritan, New Jersey. And I actually just contacted him yesterday, because I go down there every now and then, and the people down there are just amazing. This parade is amazing, and it's such a tribute to Basilone, and not just Basilone, but a lot of the men and women past and present. So it's something that kind of has started to dwindle down, and I'm working with the World War II Foundation to try and do some fundraisers and keep that parade going. But yeah, there's Michael Basilone, who is like a great nephew, and he's part of that parade. So and Badge was down at one time with me, and I think first, was it after the Pacific came out, or was it before the Pacific came out? And Badge came down and was at one of the parades with me.
Might have been that first year that you went, because I think the Leckie family came and met me there also.
Right. And what was been the feedback on your portrayal? You know what? Let me just stop skirting the issue. We actually have them in the audience. Should we bring on the Basilone family, Leighton?
Look at our faces.
Leighton.
Everyone's face like, oh.
Oh, Leighton.
Yeah, I'm just bringing them on now, mate.
Oh, good. We have Michael Basilone for you, and we have Jacqueline.
Hey, fellas. Honored to be here. Mr. Seda, John.
Hey.
I'm not that Michael that you referred to.
Yeah, you're a different Michael.
I'm another Michael, but I'm a second cousin once removed. My great-grandfather and John Basilone's grandfather were brothers.
Wow.
So, and I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. Wow. So my boot camp was a little different than your boot camp.
In that he actually did a boot camp. Yeah.
We will try to compare ours to yours.
And I was a real Basilone, so but what was different, of course, everybody thinks of John Basilone, the hero of Guadalcanal. He was a grown man in the portrayal. Everybody knows him, and they see him as an adult and battle hardened and already done a tour in the Army and everything. When I went through, I was a 17-year-old young, dumb kid. And I think my drill instructors tried to make that comparison. Of course, there isn't. So, and if I may be so bold, when I first heard that you were going to portray John, I'm like, what? I didn't know who you were. I'm thinking, what? This guy? Oh, geez. I had all these people in mind who could play and do justice. And I could not have been more wrong. You were tremendous. You did the family such an honor and true to form. And I mean, of course, I never got to meet him. My dad did. My dad, he broke my father's .22 rifle. So my dad never liked John Basilone. But my dad fought in the Pacific in the Army. So I heard a lot of the stories. We weren't real close. I mean, I didn't see the Jersey family at all growing up. And Basilones, for the most part, we're kind of in the background. We're kind of reserved. We don't like limelight, as John Basilone, the hero, right? He didn't like all that publicity. He was kind of embarrassed, I think. We kind of like to stick there. And then the Pacific came out, and all the Basilones say, hey, here we are. And we found them on Facebook. So it was great. So thank you for that, for portraying my cousin so well. And all you guys, all the realism based on what my father told me of combat, fighting the Japanese, how brutal they were, how tough it was on the guys, you know, and man, just a great series.
Thank you, Michael.
So we those words.
Jacqueline.
Yes, sir.
How are you, Mom?
I'm good. Guys, my name is Jacqueline, and I'm here with my dad. I want to introduce my dad, of course, because my dad's one of my heroes. But so my dad was born in 1950. He was the first male child in the Basilone family after the sergeant passed away. And so my dad is actually John Basilone as well. He was named after John after he passed away. And I just got done rewatching this entire series, and I have to tattletale on my dad, John Seda. It is so special to me because I know that you have donated your time and continue to represent John Basilone through the years. I have a lot of friends that work at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans, and I know that you voiced John in that dog tag experience. And I took my dad to New Orleans, and he was just standing at that dog tag experience, just weeping. We were just standing there listening to your voice, talking about, you know, everything that John did. And I was telling Matthew, you know, as a female, Lena is very important to me. And I feel, and he's crying now, I feel like the relationship that you portrayed with Lena is so important.
Yeah, are you gonna make me cry?
No.
And so we recently just had a death in our family. My dad's Aunt Mary Jane just passed away. How old was she?
87.
She was 87, and in the mail today I actually received a copy of our family tree. And so I would love to make copies of this and share it, of course, with Michael, because we've been trying to piece our personal relationship together. But all of you are so special to me. James, I love your portrayal. Keith, I really can't get over your diarrhea episode.
Neither could he. Neither could he. That day when we shot that, I thought, Mom, Dad, I made it.
I mean, it's all important to me, and Scott's gonna make me cry. He looks like he's crying over there. You're also important to me, and I really do consider all of you to be family. You know, we live down here in Texas. We had to get away from the winters, but I hope to cook pasta for you all one day. You're very important to me. Josh, I will.
I'm in. You said the word.
Pasta? We're going.
I homemade my pasta from scratch still. I do it in my hand. I hand crank it still. So you guys are also important to me, and there's something about y'all's portrayal that really humanizes that war as a whole. My husband is a disabled veteran, and he agreed with me. He watched the series with me over the last 2 days. We're never going to fight a war like this again. There's never going to be. It's just, I can't even put it into words. It's all unfathomable. And I don't know if you guys have any specific questions. And I was on earlier when Joe was talking kind of the history of how, you know, John became who John was, but I wanted to share something with you that I'm not sure any of y'all knew. I did have the ability to meet Richard Greer one day, and Richard Greer was Basilone's battle buddy. I think he was about 96 or 97 when we met. He died at 100. And I asked him, I said, you know, I'm 33 years old. I've never met John Basilone, and I never will. I'll only know what I've read and what other people tell me. Please tell me something that's personal that I can take away to understand my family member. And I said, do you have any story you could share with me? And he said, yeah. And he said, have you seen the Pacific yet? And I said, absolutely, I've seen it. And he goes, well, you have to understand. He goes, when John Seda gets in that Jeep and Joshua tells him, hey man, don't mess it up, you can't do that. He goes, we stole that Jeep. He said he did not get out of that Jeep and move on. He said, we stole that Jeep. He said it was an Army Jeep on top of it. He said we put 2 Australian girls in it. And he said, but more, we wanted to show those girls what us Yanks could do. He goes, so we set out on a mission to find snow to show the girls snow. And I hate to throw anybody under the bus, but he told me that there was a little bit of nudity and streaking involved. And I asked him, whatever happened to the Army Jeep? And he said, what didn't happen to the Army Jeep? And it was this cute, I mean, he was a tall man, but he was in a wheelchair, and you get a little smaller when you're older, cute little old man. And I was just standing there in utter awe and shock. And so, John, for me, you're really an embodiment of somebody that I'll never know. And it's so important to us what all of you have done. I love literally all of you. If you ever see me or you hear that I'm going to a function, I want to make you cookies.
Now, my father, just like Mike said earlier, said that John Basilone winning the Congressional Medal was like a superstar athlete, like a rock star, and he did not like the publicity that came along with it. He did not like that. He was somewhat shy, maybe reserved. But that's what my father told me earlier.
Wow. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. You speak so well. You're very erudite, very beautiful. Thank you very much. Michael, it's a pleasure to see you. You and I have bumped gums before. You're a menace, but I want to see you again. Jump on again. We're going to pin you guys now and just move on with stuff, but please stick around, and then we'll chat to you a bit later. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Every time I get family members on, they always speak better than I do. They're just so amazing. Well, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna just ask you a little bit about, because obviously I've got to bring that lunatic Freddie Joe on to torture you pretty soon, but I'm gonna wait. I know he's there, just chaining at the bit. So when you guys fight the Battle of Guadalcanal, in reality, you're stranded in this kind of nightmare. The Navy has been blown up, and you're just left on a rock in the middle of nowhere with nothing. What did the cadre do to recreate that during the battle sequences? The fact that you're fighting a hidden enemy, the fact that you're lost, the fact that you're isolated. Was there any, Scotty, you can actually, you're good at this, man. Was there any specific tactics that the cadre put in place to just keep you terrified?
Me?
Well, not you specifically, Scott, everybody.
I don't know, man. I found it terrifying. Like, we were shooting a lot of that at night, with things literally exploding around us and just flares. And there were so many Japanese men who they, hired as those soldiers, that when they first attacked, and I can still see it. I mean, obviously we're actors, so I know I'm not going to die. So the fear is nothing compared to what those Marines. But they came charging like hundreds of people, and it was intense. And I don't know, man. With these guys, it's a really interesting experience as an actor, because I didn't prep. Like, I learned my lines, and I got in a gun pit with John and Bernthal and Ian and Eamon. Those was my group of guys, Arkosh. And I just figured, like, they got me. And I don't know if I've ever had such trust in a group of actors before, because they didn't feel like actors. They really felt like family. I mean, they still feel like family. Years ago when I got back from the Pacific, I was dating a woman, and we were supposed to have dinner with her dad. And Badge was coming through LA for one night. And we had plans with her dad for like weeks. And I called her and I said, you got to cancel dinner with your dad. You got to reschedule. She was like, what? I was like, Badge is in town for a night. She was like, what? I was like, Badge is here for one night. We're going to have dinner with him, or I'm going to have dinner with him, and I'm having dinner with Badge. And she went, you would drop anything for these guys, huh? And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. And they've done it for me. Like, in life, not just as actors. Like, these are amongst my best friends in the world. I mean, I feel super, super blessed. I love these men.
Wow. When you were starting out on that story, I noticed Keith doing this. Like, you might get killed.
You might have died. You might have not died.
Well, that was my next. I always remember shooting battle sequences, right? And you're into it and all the rest of it. And then there's a moment when they go cut, and then there's an inventory taken. Which extra just got part of his dick blown off, or wasn't listening, or how many of his dicks flew off? You know, how many guys got injured? And it's on every battle sequence, isn't it?
Well, not everybody made it through boot camp, right? Everybody made it.
Really?
Yeah, some guys were, right away breaking bones left and right, and they're like, I just get him out of here, just move him out of here, get somebody else over here.
Oh, yeah, we had the guy who broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
In combat.
Oh my God, those
like,
sound,
get him out of the way.
That was like Tales from the Crypt screech, like his pain. That was like, get him off. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had Neil McDonough had 3 of his teeth smashed out on a training exercise on boot camp. Someone jumped through a window with a 50 cal and smashed him straight in the face. And Dale Dye just had the medic, Doc Rowe, stitch him up. It then got infected.
I have this, my hand got gashed, and I went and I was like, holy shit. And I go to the medic and I go, is this going to be okay? And he's like, oh yeah, it should be fine. And then he leans in and he goes, I have no medical experience whatsoever. And you go, all right, okay. All right, cool.
Badge, didn't you break your nose shooting F6?
Oh no, Tony Toe did.
That's right. Showing you the stunt.
No, wait.
Yeah.
Listen. I remember that day because we were, we're filming 6 and it's just crossing the airfield, and 3-5 finished up filming, and Tony Toe is just standing there. And he's got his arms crossed, and he goes, "I'm gonna blow Badge up today." All right, Tom. Right on, man. And
sounds good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I go back down to I think it was base camp or something. And I'm walking by Badge and just go, "Hey, man, Tony Toe's gonna blow you up today." He fucking looks at me, but I think Tony did the stunt before you did it, right? Because Tony was always like that. He same thing with Rami when Oswald gets hit, and you see Rami fly back, and so Tony he's talking Rami through it and saying, "Yeah, listen, don't worry, it's not going to hurt. Just look, I'm going to show you. And he gets geared up and he does it, and he flies back and lands on this pad. But of course, when he gets up, he's just like, "Oh my God," kind of thing. But he always wanted to, he's like, "Don't worry, if I can do it, you can do it," kind of thing. So I think he did the same thing with Badge. I'm not sure.
He did the reverse, because I messed up the stunt. Because Scotty, you told me I was going to get blown up the night before. He told me once that he's like, "I'm going to blow Badge up." You told me that night at the Union Bar, you said, "Hey, man, Tony Toe said he's going to blow you up." I didn't sleep all night. I showed up on set, and it was a large ordinance. It was the idea that Tony had was that, Leckie got shaken up a bit, and the way he wanted to shoot it was an ordnance hits an ammo pile, the explosion comes up, Leckie turns, gets thrown in the air, and hits a tree, and then continues on. And the camera's on this side as like Leckie flips through, and I rehearsed it a bunch of times with the crane. I really thought we had it. I got hypnotized by the size of this explosion. It was so much pyrotechnics they had packed in, and it goes off. And I just stood there and I was like, wow, that's big. Boom. And then the crane hits me. I'm like, oh no, I'm too late. And I turned and I kind of went face first into the tree, and I ruined the whole shot. And it was a 24-hour setup on those explosives. So right away I owed the whole
only a couple hundred grand.
Yeah, a couple $100,000. Don't fuck it up.
We got to tell that story about Bernthal. Finish up, Badge. But
yeah, so I owed everyone a lot of beer, and we're gonna have to come back and do it the next day. But Tony is insistent on finding out what went wrong. And I said, Tony, I was like, "Hey man, I know what went wrong. I turned too late." And he goes, "No, I'm gonna do it." And he takes my helmet, he takes my Tommy, which was it's an actionable Tommy. And what I didn't tell Tony was that what I learned when I was rehearsing was that the moment you hit the tree, you better let go of that Tommy gun. Tony didn't know. He does the stunt. He hits the tree. He holds on the Tommy gun. It wraps around the tree and smashes his face. And I don't know if he broke his nose. He busted up his nose pretty good. And I love Tony. He had a great attitude about it. And we started replaying the feed because the camera crew had the video going.
Yeah.
So we had it on camera, and we did Video Village and watch it over and over again, watch our producer get his face smashed in. But I love that guy to death. And if I see him, I'll give him a big hug, man. He's a good.
Jacob, can you give us a little Tony Toe? Jacob?
I don't think I'm the Tony Toe expert.
Oh, come on.
I don't know, man. I
You're
remember
Tony
you being
Toe.
pretty good about it. Yeah.
Please.
Well, somebody pass.
Freddie's laughing. Freddie Joe's laughing.
Yeah, I'm loving this. What was the Burnfield story, by the way?
We were shooting the scene where it was the only scene actually that all of us actually eventually shot together, where we all steal stuff from the Army in F2. And there was a scene of us walking over, and one of the privates in our company, who's played by Ian Meadows, is going like, "What if we get in trouble?" And I'm like, "Shut up, you sound like my wife." And we have this like banter back and forth. And the way it was set up, and then an Army truck tries to run us over, and we tell them to go fuck themselves. And there was this huge cane field that these roads were carved out of, and the setup, like to reset the shot, took something like 30 minutes. Like the truck had to drive forever, and this and that. And John messed up like a few takes in a row, and it took us like a couple hours. And he goes, "Man, I wonder how much fucking money I just cost this production." And I in college was on a track to be a math major, so I did a quick little breakdown of like, well, it's this much, this is what we heard the budget is, this is how much it is per episode, we're shooting this many days per episode, which comes about $1 million a day, 10 hours a day. I was like, you just cost about $175,000. And John just like slugged me. He was like, "Fuck you, JP." And I was like, "Sorry, man, you asked for the math." That's what it was. That was it. It was just really, because we that's all we did, was we just like laughed. We laughed so much on this job through all the intent.
John, Seda, you remember so I got cut out of F2 because when we did that scene where I come out of the foxhole there and you got the booze and you drop.
Right, yeah.
But you had, so for whatever reason, who was it? Dale wanted you to have a cover on. And he gave you his, which wasn't period. Yeah. So we have this great moment, colors and flags going down. And he, Basilone's eyeballing Haldane, and Haldane's sort of looking over at him, and then flag goes down, finishing everything, and I just look down at the bag, I look at Basilone, and I said, "Carry on, Sergeant," and go off.
Is that why they cut it? Because of the?
That's why they cut it.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Bruce, you tell Bruce McKenna that story, and he goes fucking ballistic.
Oh, so I have to interrupt then. So Bruce McKenna, he was on the last two, and he was somewhat of a firecracker. Now he claims he got into it with Dale Dye about whatever it was. I'm not quite sure what it was, and then he offered him out in a fist fight. Can anybody verify this story? Because I can't think of anything more ridiculous. I imagine it was like that fight at the end of Bridget Jones' Diary, those two going at it. You brought it. Did anybody see it?
I don't know if the fight, so that sequence, if it was that day, but right. he was ballistic at Dale, because even, I told that story before, where F5 and you see Haldane at Pavuvu, and I didn't have, my gaiters on, and I don't mind, my shirt was a bit sloppy, and Dale's like, "Fuck, Skipper, what have they done to you? Jesus Christ, let me fucking straighten this shit out. Goddamn wardrobe, fuck," and he's this and that, and he's correcting my blouse, and he's like, "Put them fucking gaiters on," sort of thing, and I'm going, all right. But I'm thinking, this sweltering shithole Pavuvu of rat-infested coconut mess, and there's Haldane, all dressed up like he's going for a jaunt in the park or something. But Bruce came out and saw me, and he goes, "What the fuck? Why are you wearing those gaiters? Why the cover on and everything?" And I said, "Well, the Skipper wanted me to wear it." And Bruce was like, "Oh, fuck, if I see another pair of gaiters on someone today, I'm going to lose my shit," But just the nature of the production and the stress of everything, I mean, ultimately it wasn't anything that was going to, tear anybody apart or anything like that. But it just, you know, you can imagine the stress that those guys were going through as, you know, producer, showrunner, and everything Dale had to do, and having these different ideas clash and everything like that.
I'm tempted to sell tickets to a Dale versus McKenna fight online.
It should be like a cage match. Do a cage match.
Yeah. That was freaking awesome.
I'd be scared to watch.
So I love the way this is going now. So before we bring on the lunatic, can I get a good Dale die story out of anybody? I mean, I have loads, but I don't want to tell you mine. Mine are boring. Why is everyone skipping this? It's got really awkward.
Well, we try to narrow it down.
It's really what you're asking is, how do you choose a favorite child?
Right.
That's what you're asking.
Yeah.
You know, it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
That's 77.
Doesn't look a day over 80. It looks great for it. I love Dale. Just narrated a book for him, and he tortured me for a year. I thought
you were going to ask favorite Freddie Joe story, and that's what
let's all right. You know what? Give me a favorite Freddie Joe story, and then we'll bring him on. How about that? Whilst he's not on the screen.
It's incredibly off color. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Mom, I'm really sorry. But when we were in boot camp, like, we were terrified of these guys, right? There were two moments where I realized I was going to survive boot camp. This was the first. The second one, Jacob and Keith will remember for sure. So we, you know, whenever we're doing drills and stuff, you know, if one of the NCOs called for someone, they would go like, I need Leckie. And then everyone would call down the line. They'd be like, Leckie. And everyone would just scream until Leckie got the word, and he'd come running back. And for some reason, I was sort of alone in the machine gun camp, cleaning up while they were doing some drill that I wasn't supposed to go on. And I'm cleaning up garbage. And Freddie Joe comes out and he goes, I need, oh my God, I just blanked on Ashton's character's name.
Sid Phillips.
Phillips. He goes, he goes, and then I just blanked on Mazzella's character's name. What is happening to me? I just had
Sledge.
He goes, I need Sledge and Phillips.
Were you in the Pacific? You were in the
Yeah, I was. I know.
Yeah, Schmosh Matan.
Yeah. So he goes, he just very like under his breath goes, I need Sledge and Phillips. So I go like, Sledge and Phillips, Gunny needs Sledge and Phillips. And the guys were like hundreds of yards away. And so they're screaming down the line, and Sledge and Phillips come fucking running all the way down. And they're like, yes, Gunny. And he looks at the two of them, eyeballs them up and down, and he goes, you still sucking his cock? And he goes, cool, as you were. And I, standing behind them, go, and I fucking burst out laughing. But we weren't allowed to laugh. So I burst out laughing, and he eyeballs me, and he goes, you think that shit was funny? And I go, and he goes, it was pretty fucking funny. And then he walked away, and I was like, I'm going to survive. I'm going to survive this.
The worst thing you can do is laugh at Freddie Joe's meanness, because then that's it. He's mean for you against somebody else. Frank John Hughes he bunked next to me. Frank John Hughes is a wonderful actor. He has a slight lazy eye that goes that way. And Freddie, time over there. And I'm so fucking mean. I'm trying not to laugh and I'm giggling. And so he would just rag on him. Let's bring him on. Bring Freddie Joe on. Oh God, I'm terrified.
Oh no.
Freddie Joe!
Look at that fucking battle-scarred face.
Somebody unmute the sergeant for God's sake. He's definitely saying fuck.
He's definitely saying fuck, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill us all.
He's gonna kill us all.
That's what he's saying. I'll fucking kill you all.
Mate. Oh, maybe we should just not unmute him and let
He spit that tobacco at me the first time I met him.
Yep. So you got no comeback there, Dick Licker?
No, getting off the bus at boot camp.
My God, he unmuted himself. That's fucking brilliant. All right, while he's messing around, boys, while he's messing around, how good, though? How good as an NCO was he? We had several NCOs, and after about 10 minutes, we realized, let's just listen to Freddie Joe. He was brilliant, a brilliant NCO. Freddie, for God's sake, man, pull yourself together. What are you doing? Leighton, what is going on with this fella?
Oh, no. I just remember this. First day of boot camp, and these guys remember this. I got sent over to Freddie Joe to get garbage bags for the machine gun platoon. And I ran over and I didn't know how to fucking talk to anybody. I was like, excuse me, gunnery sergeant, sir, can I have some garbage bags, please? And he was like, yeah, here you go. And I grabbed him and I said, thank you, gunnery sergeant. And all of a sudden he goes, did you just fucking thank me? And I was like, and in my mind, I was like, did I forget to thank him? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, Marines don't fucking thank each other. Marines do their fucking jobs. And at which point they made the entire machine gun platoon do 25 Marine Corp push-ups, which is basically 50 push-ups.
Which none of us knew how to do then.
Right.
No, and I had to stand in front of you guys and count.
You remember how bad on the first day on our way up to boot camp, how bad you had to take a piss?
Yes.
He's sitting next to me and he's like, you know, like shaking, and he's like, just doing this, just like move, whatever. And I said, what's wrong? He's like, I gotta take a piss so bad. We just started and we have no idea how long we're going. I just kept telling him, look, I think I see it. I think we're there.
I think I see it.
And I have no idea where we're going. I don't know where we're going. I'm just trying to, you know, like give him some confidence that he's going to make it. And I'm just like, yeah, I think we're, you know. Meanwhile, we have like 3 more miles.
3 more miles. We drove for at least an hour. I was dying. And then we got out of the bus and I asked for permission to pee, and Garcia said, sure. And I ran to go pee and he went, belay that order. And he made me stop. And then the entire company had to march out to our camp, which included us going single file over a tree, over a river.
And
so it took another 40 minutes to get over there. I was dying. Oh,
that's got to be a record for world's longest held pee.
I'm just still watching Freddie Joe over there.
Yeah. Me too, man. He cannot figure it out.
I used to work construction with a guy who used to say, Matto, this is like watching monkeys fuck a football. And that's quite what that looks like to me down there. So, Scotty, tell us about him being mean to Joe story whilst he's on. He can't defend himself, Freddie Joe.
Mean to Joe?
Yeah. The keys in the ADR.
Oh, just, yeah. I mean, I think he'd been just so intimidated by Freddie that when Freddie showed up for ADR, Joe had left. He left the room, but he left his keys at the podium. And Freddie knew this coming in there, so he didn't see him in the green room. But Freddie's like, oh, Joe's in there. So Joe didn't come out through the green room and say hello to Freddie. And Freddie goes in there and he sees the keys, so he grabs them. And then all of a sudden there's a knock on the door and there's Joe. Joe walks in, Freddie's just tossing the keys up in the air and he goes, forget something? And Joe's like, yeah, my keys. Freddie tosses him the keys there. And I mean, I think they had a chuckle about it, you know, afterwards. I didn't, and for everyone watching that doesn't know, I didn't share the same boot camp with these other guys. I was filming much later, so mine was only 4 days. But when I showed up to Australia, you got a couple days rest or whatever, and I think boot was the next day or 2 days later. So, hey, do you want to go to set? Sure. So Brendan Fletcher and I, Bill Layden went to set, and they were doing Guadalcanal. And so we're just walking around kind of the background area and run into Keith and Jacob. And they're
I remember this.
Oh man, they're lying in this foxhole, and we roll up and we're like, hey, Scott, I built, play Haldane, and Fletch is like, yeah, play Bill Layden, and they're just looking at us like they, who the fuck are you? Like I didn't tell us their name, and they were smoking, and they had their gear was all fucking tight and everything, and they were just like, yeah, oh boot, yeah, fuck, it's all right, kind of thing, and they're all like, I thought I was meeting two guys I thought I was in platoon, like I was just a new recruit or something. But these guys were fucking with us. I knew it afterwards. I know you guys did.
They had, I remember this, and Jacob and I, unspoken, we just caught each other's eye, and we're like, we're going to scare the shit out of them. We're going to drag them through. And it was, well, we gave you guys so much shit about that second boot camp, because it was a few days, right? Like we were like, oh, we've been through it. Ours was only what? You said 9, Josh?
9.5, yeah.
9.5. We were like, man, we lived through it. Yeah.
I lost 12 pounds in 9.5 days. It was not easy. I'm just going to say that.
I didn't take a dump the whole time we were there.
That's right.
You know what? Congratulations. That was not pretty.
It was either you're going a lot or you just didn't go at all.
You didn't take a dump for 9.5 days?
I'm telling you, man, I don't know what the heck happened, man.
They had one porta-john out there.
Yeah,
they had a porta-john.
100 dudes. So the temptation got less and less as time went on.
And the only time to really go,
so much, I think it was just coming out of my skin.
It was the only time to go was before the sun came up, before we started. So people would go in the middle of the night into this, couldn't see shit, and the porta-john looked like that. It was the worst. It was the worst place in the world.
John Seda saved it for my trailer.
That's right. That's what
He's waited at least 6 weeks to tell us the story.
Because I mean, if we had trailers, we didn't see those trailers really until, like, I don't know, towards the end maybe or something like that. I don't know, or there were trailers there, but we rarely ever went to the trailers. And it was this one time, I think it was not going in a bunch of days, and I had to go so bad. And there's a nice looking trailer right there, and I just said, I said, can I go into that trailer? He said, well, that's Scotty Gibson's trailer. He's not here. If you want to use it, yeah, sure. So let me go use it. I go in, I have a good old time in that bathroom, letting loose, right? And sure enough, I'm coming out of the trailer, and Scott's walking into the trailer. And I'm coming out, I'm buckling up. Say, hey, thanks for the bathroom, man.
Literally, my hand, because it was just random. I went to the trailer. I never spent any time in it. And my hand got on the doorknob, and I'm turning it one way, and I feel it turning the other way from the inside, and open it up. And because he just started filming on F8, and we were doing F6, and he looks at me. He's like, "Oh fuck, hey, how you doing?"
Is that a 9.5 day dump that he's just left in your trailer?
His beautiful smile hit me at the same time as the smell.
It was like, a 30 cal, man. I left a 30 cal in that bathroom.
All right. Hold on. I got to tell this. When we were shooting the Guadalcanal battle, there's the moment. Yeah, sorry, John. You want to bring up me peeing? This is happening. So there's a moment where obviously, like famously, Basilone ran into the middle of the battlefield, pushed over the bodies so that JP could have a field of fire, and we shot it from all these angles, and he had to shoot a bunch of people. It was crazy. It was a crazy setup, and we were finally turning around to get my close-up response where I scream and I throw a grenade, and he comes diving back in. So they're on my close-up, and John comes fucking running in and jumps over, and my line is, "What the fuck was that?" And he jumps over, lands, and just goes and farts dead in my face. like it was so loud we heard it on playback, and what comes out of my mouth is, what the fuck was that? And then everybody in the pit just starts laughing. John starts laughing. The director's like, David Nutter's like, no, we have to get this. And I'm like, no, man, he farted in my face.
It was every time I dove. For some reason, every time I dove back in, it was like, prap. I couldn't control it. Every time I dove. And he's like, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, well, now you have a clear field of fire.
Yeah. And I just remember Sammy behind the machine gun like this, trying to keep a straight face, and then just shaking, and the whole 30 cal shaking. Amazing. Fucking amazing.
Oh, man. That was good.
Freddie,
that's good. I'm still watching Freddie Joe down there. What's happening, buddy?
Come on, Freddie.
Hey, it was your fucking fault. This motherfucker running your shit. Fuck this cocksucker.
Evening, Freddie.
Sorry, Josh's mom. Or Josh's mom, I'm sorry. Motherfucking shit.
They're like haikus.
Hey, I like this. I just want to say something. This is my favorite thing. Josh, hey man, my mom's watching. Hey man, hey mom, how you doing? This motherfucker over here. What the hell's wrong with you, dude? I'll slap the shit out of you.
Listen, but my mom,
your mom's on there. Mom, we love you.
My mom can curse with the best of them.
I know. So okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been actually since right before 12, and I've never heard so much fucking whining and crying about, oh, my eyes. Oh, he was yelled at me. It was so mean. What the fuck? I love each and every one of you.
Back at you, Freddie.
Hey, I just got to say this. I just want to talk about Freddie Joe for a second, man. Not only is he's a master at his craft of making human beings feel bad about themselves, but he's also someone we love and trust on set. And he was there for the entire 10 months with us, and never was there ever a moment that I ever feel like he didn't have everyone's back, and that he was someone that we could always go to, and that we could always trust in him. And he doesn't like me saying that right now, but the man's a consummate professional. He's a filmmaker, he's a stuntman, he's an actor, and you want him on that set with you at any point in time.
He's a surprisingly gentle lover as well.
Clearly.
What's that?
I said he's a surprisingly gentle lover as well.
Oh man, go fuck yourself. Yeah, no, hey, there's something about being a badass, and you're not really a badass if you can't find a soft spot in your heart. So I learned that a long time ago. All you are is a dick, but you know what I mean? You got to find a soft spot in your heart. And I will tell you all this, as you all know, I've been doing this like 26 years now. And it seems like 95% of every project is Army for me for some unknown reason. There's not a lot of Marine projects, so I was very excited when this happened. So you all knew I took it very personally. I took it personally about Chesty Puller. And we talk about Basilone's family. Besides Chesty Puller, John Basilone is the most famous next to Smedley Butler and so on, because every Marine Corps base, you drive, the main center road is Basilone Road, and it will always be that way. So even young Marines that don't understand or whatever what's going on, they didn't see the Pacific, they don't get it, they got to get on Basilone Road to get to work every day. So then they always ask questions, which one is this? Who's Basilone? Who's John Basilone? John Basilone was a young kid that was in the Army, tried to figure his life out, couldn't figure it out, became a Marine, became a man, and then saved lives. And nothing better in the world.
So,
and,
how badly did you ride John's ass?
Shut the fuck up, Matthew. Right before, just the other day, I went to a Band of Brothers 75th reunion and met a bunch of the family members of the people that were portrayed in the show. And one of the greatest compliments I've ever gotten in the film business was one of the kids. I'd say kids, they were all older than me now, you know. But one of the things was his dad never said nothing. And he said to me, he goes, by you making these actors portray our fathers, helped our fathers communicate with us. Wow. And he thanked me. And that's what it's about. And I told each and every one of you, this is going to change your life. And you were all like, well, I'm a big fucking thespian. I've been to the finest schools of New Jersey in acting. And I went to East Kentucky State and learned how to run through the fields of love. You know, I was chased by dinosaurs as an 8-year-old. Are you kidding me? This is not going to change my life. And I beg to differ. It's changed each and every one of your lives. And I've also come to the conclusion that John Barenthal owes each and every one of you his career, because apparently he wasn't nobody till he met you fucking guys. All right, Matt, you can talk now. I'm done with my rant.
Couldn't be more perfect.
Yeah.
PhD shit talking with a heart of fucking gold.
Yeah, man.
Which one of these guys did you ride the hardest, Freddie?
Oh, fuck.
And why?
I mean, I rode Haldane pretty fucking bad because he got fucking pussyfooted right when we started. I'm sorry, Scott Gibson's your name, isn't it? But I think I rode everybody equally the same. I mean, if they fucked up, they got it. If I was bored, me and Gunny Whitfield, Bruce, you know, we were gonna fuck with somebody. And whoever was in front of us was going to get fucked with. You know, and they are right, the machine gunners, and I'm not going to explain why by day 4 they were behind schedule of learning and running things. So I did take an extra step to go and unfuck them. You know, I'm very well known. If your buddies fucked up, unfuck them, and they were all my buddies, and they needed to be unfucked very quickly. And the funny thing was, within a matter of seconds, a matter of minutes, they got it. And the reason why they got it is I made it a competition. And these are the most competitive assholes I've ever met in my life. And, you know, a lot of actors say, oh, could I have been a Marine? You think I could have made it through? No, fuck no, you couldn't have. But your camaraderie and the aggressiveness of this group of gentlemen was amazing. And it was the same with Band of Brothers, man. You guys, if we gave you a competition, there's fucking people going to get hurt.
Yep.
They weren't going to lose. You know, all of us go into these projects, including myself, you know, just like me when I went to the Marines, as kids. You guys had been around, but you were kids. When you came out of here, you were men. Because I guarantee not one of you to this day has walked on a movie set or a TV set and gone, oh, fuck, this is so hard.
You know,
each and every one of you said, man, you have no fucking idea. Me and Josh has worked quite a bit on TV shows. I see Badge once in a while. I you know, have to fly in to see the magical John Seda once in a while. Haven't seen you, Keith, in forever. God bless you. And Jacob, we worked on the show once in a while and got to make fun of people. And I see you guys you're always having fun. No matter, it be hot, 105 degrees, we're up in the hills. Somebody's seen a snake, everybody's screaming, and we're just over there laughing. No big deal. You know, and it's all because of this show. It changed their life.
There were, you know, a few guys that had issues with it, but if Freddie and the cadre, if they were not that hard on you, we wouldn't have respected them.
If he wasn't hard on you, didn't like you, that's the
no, but you earned his respect. Because
I'm just gonna say this, man. Freddie just said nice shit about all of us, and I feel like an 18-year-old whose dad finally told him he loved him.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The Stockholm syndrome is mighty with you, Josh.
It still hits home. And I will say, man, what Badge said is true. I have come on to a bunch of like 3 or 4 sets where Freddie Joe was there as a coordinator, right? And I don't know if there's a better feeling. Like it's like walking into work and it would be like we've seen one of these guys. There's just a grounding sense that you know your back is God. And I can walk up to Freddie about a moment and say, you know, man, this is what they're telling me to do. And he go, no. Do this. And I know that there's no bullshit in it. It's very true. Really, really true.
Yeah, and if you suck, I'll fucking tell you you suck too. That's the good thing.
100%.
I mean, that's something you're not used to, you know?
Freddie, were you given more license on this being a Marine than you were on band?
Well, the progression of my career. You got to remember, Band of Brothers was only like my second technical advising work, believe it or not. Maybe my third. But when it came to this, you know, I'd already done spy games and a couple shows by myself. You know, Dale never wanted me to go off on my own, but he was like, okay. And I just basically said, you know, let me fucking take most of the cadre. Of course, he had to bring in his few buddies. Let me bring my guys in. You know, that's why I got Gunny Whitfield over, and he was actually active duty in the Marines at the time, just came back from Iraq right before he came over to help us out. Sean Bunch, Robert Garcia, you know, these are Marines, combat Marines. I said, let's bring them in. We can use them. You know, we had mortar teams. We brought mortarmen in. We had, you know, we had an Anglico, which was good with radios and calls and all that stuff. We had, you know, we had LAR, light armored reconnaissance. Garcia came there, me, a bullet sponge. I'm like, let's fucking train them like Marines, you know? There's one thing that is very personal to me is, you know, it's why when you ask a Marine, hey, was you a Marine? You're like, no, I am a Marine. No matter how old they are, they could be fucking Father Time like Captain Di, or, you know, young, beautiful young man like myself. We are always Marines. And we will always be Marines because we're a different breed. And the same thing with the Royal Marines. They're no different, Matthew and the British people. No different. The Royal Marines and US Marines are very close. We're the smaller group. We're the stepchild. So I really wanted this. And some of you remember me and you talk about Mr. McKenna earlier, arguing and fighting about a particular guidon, about when the 7th Marines up on Bloody Ridge, and me and McKenna were fighting, and they made him go and research it. They made him I go, look, this was my unit. As you can see, it's right here. 7th Marine. 1st Battalion, 7th Marines was my unit. That was my baby, who I went to combat with twice. You know, it's like, you're not going to tell me, because one thing we do is we learn our history, we learn our research. And this is where Chesty really, really got his name. This is where Basilone got his name. You know, the guy friggin' melted his hands to keep flying rounds down range. Morgan, you know, all these guys running to get ammo just for, you know, no sleep. And the reason why it all got straight in the history books was when they raised that guidon that said Suicide Charlie, the Marines went ballistic. You know, let's be honest. You know, you can knock a Marine out by throwing sand against the barn door and telling him to hit the beach. We're not that hard if we can get around. We just want to go forward all the time. And it took one little thing that said Suicide Charlie, misspelled, of course, because somebody like me probably spelled it, and it motivated that whole unit. So, you know, certain things to me, that's why it was very particular, because I wanted them in there, because this was about my unit. These were about my brothers, the Marines, you know. So sorry, I was talking too much.
No, it's fascinating, Freddie.
Amazing.
It's fascinating.
So unlike you.
What do you say?
I said it's so unlike you to talk so much.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, listen, boys.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Mom Baton. Sorry.
Listen,
Mom
boys.
Baton.
I feel like we've come to a natural ending. It's been fucking fantastic. I can't thank you so much for coming on with you guys. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the show. I've watched it 3 times through now, and it just keeps getting better. I can't say enough about it. It's so good.
That's our 10-year anniversary challenge coin, which, by the way, I'm gonna need a bunch of addresses for you.
Challenging us. That's what that's for.
That's exactly right.
We fucked up.
We all own drinks. We fucked up.
I think your reunion needs to be at Jacqueline's with the pasta, to be honest with you. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Well, listen, boys, I'm going to bring you to an end. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. Freddie, you're a joy as ever. We'll get you on another one. Keith, Jacob, I'm a huge fan, Jacob. James, John, Scott, Joshua, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Thank you for your time. And I just want to say as well, before you jump off, I know you guys are donating your fees to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. I come from England, where we tend to do things in a rinky-dink way. I've worked with the Wounded Warrior Foundation. I've built a house for a guy. It is unbelievable. It's like $1 million house that went off his cell phone. He was a triple amputee. He got blown up in Afghanistan. It's an amazing foundation. And thank you very, very much for doing that as well. So, boys, it's been religious. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks so much.